We're going to hit big time on the trade market today. Lots of trade names out there, and we're going to hit on 5 big ones. There are some really good players who are out on the trade market or may be out on the trade market. We'll see how serious teams are about moving these guys, but certainly with the prices as high as they are, the trade market could be quite active at the winter meetings next week. We're going to start first with the story of yesterday, which was Kyle Tucker visiting with the Blue Jays. Now, obviously, we've been through this before, but it does feel pretty serious about the Blue Jays and Kyle Tucker, and everything with the Blue Jays does feel serious now. And chat at me. I'm happy to answer any and all chats that I'm able to see. We've had a number of chats the first 3 days of this week, and we're going to do this tomorrow as well, and then next week, all week at the winter meeting. So happy to answer any and all chats that you have for me today. So Tucker visits Blue Jays. That's story number 1. That was a big one yesterday. I do think that Toronto is a serious candidate to sign Kyle Tucker. He is the number 1 free agent on the market, number 5 overall pick several years ago. Very talented guy out of Tampa, was a high school teammate of Pete Alonso. Interesting, they're both free agents together. Alonso on a do-over after last year. He did okay last year, as it turned out, making the $30 million in 2025, having the big year. Now he's back at it again. But Kyle Tucker, his high school teammate, is the number 1 free agent this year. Obviously he walks a lot, got great on base, really a 5-tool player, an exceptional player, and not a surprise that Toronto's interested. I speculated on this at the World Series. I also suggested maybe the Dodgers could be involved as well. Right now, Toronto feels like the most serious team, but I think that has to do with our reporting more than anything. We shall see about that. I will say this about Toronto, though. They've already signed Dylan Cease for $210 million. They've signed Pawns for $30 million. They've spent $240 million on the rotation. They are very, very active. And that was something that was predicted early on. I think somebody tweeted, I just noticed yesterday that I predicted the Blue Jays were going to go crazy this year. I don't know about crazy. That's probably not the right word for it. But they're a team that spends. They're a team that tries to win. We know they went for Ohtani. They went for Soto, and even if they had signed either Ohtani or Soto, they were going to be able to afford Vlad Guerrero too. So obviously they still have that money left over from Ohtani, which actually that would have been good money because whoever signed him, and it turned out to be the Dodgers, unfortunately for the Toronto, makes a lot of money on all that he brings in. And I'm going to get to all the chats. I've got my chat helper here tabulating the chats, and we're going to see if I can get to all of them. All right. I do think Toronto is serious. Any team that they're connected to, I believe in them. I think that they are a very fine organization. Their owner is one of the 2 richest owners in the sport. I've heard some people speculate he's got even more money than Steve Cohen. I don't know if that's true. I think in most of the rankings, he's second, but certainly not shy about spending and trying to win. They obviously came off that heartbreaking World Series. They had a terrific year. They wiped out the Yankees. They beat the Mariners in very exciting fashion, and they really outplayed the Dodgers. And it was really a heartbreaking World Series defeat. I don't know if that's what spurred them on, because we know that they tried for Ohtani. We know they tried for Soto, and they're at it again. I think that is just them. All right, Phillies. Cattell and Imai interest. Look, I think the Phillies are going to be very, very active. They may be the National League version of the Blue Jays. They haven't done it yet, but I do believe they will be active. Imai, I know they are interested in. Luis Robert to the Mets. We're going to get to the names on the block. He would fit right-handed center fielder. Buxton obviously would fit them as well. We shall see on that. They weren't able to make a trade for Robert at the deadline. Are they going to be able to do it now? I'm not going to guarantee that at this point because, look, the sides were not able to come together then, didn't even come close. Yanks interested in Bichette. I haven't heard that, and I'm going to talk about Bichette in a little while, but I have not heard that to this point. They seem to be looking more at relief pitching, a starter, and Bellinger in the outfield. So I don't feel like they're really concentrating on the infield. You never know what could happen later. Astros and Joe Ryan. Look, I think any of these starting pitchers who are trade candidates, it's not going to be about the money, right? Because, he's not making huge money now for what his actual value is. So I do think the Astros would be a fit there because they are looking for a starting pitcher. Angels news. Well, they checked in on Bellinger, as I mentioned. I think they've checked in on Bassett. We'll see what happens there. He might want to go to a team that has an even greater chance of winning than the Angels, but you never know. I do think that they're looking at pitching, and of course, Artie Moreno always looking at offense. He loves the offense. Orioles going to make a big move? I do believe so. I think so. I think they are going to make big moves. They've obviously got Ward already for Grayson Rodriguez. They signed Helsley. They picked up Kittredge. They've done a lot. But I think the big one is yet to come for them, whether it be a starting pitcher, big offense, might be an outfielder, a DH. We know they've talked about Schwarber. So they are looking to do big, big stuff. Are the Marlins going to do any trades? I think the Marlins are going to be active. They actually have money this year, so I'm going to talk about them later. Yankees trading the Martian. That's not on the table at the moment. Maybe depending on what happens with Bellinger, and Bellinger is their top target, and I mentioned that they were apart. Okay, well, that's true of anybody who hasn't signed yet. They don't have a deal with anybody, right? So I don't know. Maybe a little too much was read into that, but I do think that the Yankees still are going hard for Bellinger. That is their number one positional target. Braves news. I think they're still looking at shortstop. Whether they can come together on Kim on the years, I think that is the question there. LA Dodgers on Robert Suarez. I could see that. They were in on Devin Williams. That would make sense. Doesn't feel at this moment they're in on Diaz. To me, the Diaz market has not developed yet. It certainly should. He is an outstanding, outstanding player. Who's more likely to sign or trade for a free agent pitcher? They've traded for one in the past, right? Burns. So could go either way, whether it be Ryan, Peralta in terms of a trade, and I'm going to talk about the trade candidates in a little while. Yankees looking for a shortstop or third base. I think they're going to go with Caballero to start until Volpe's ready at shortstop. I think they're going to take a right-handed third baseman to platoon with Ryan McMahon, maybe an Ahmed Rosario coming back. That's probably about it. Guards ever moving middle infielders for power bat. Well, they are looking for power. If they can get power, they'd be happy to get that. So I don't know if they're ever doing it. Kodai Senga rumors. All right, I'm going to get to all the guys on the block. A lot of the big names and some smaller names on the block in a little while. But in terms of the Tucker visit with the Blue Jays, I want to wrap that up now. That was the big story yesterday, and I see why that's a big story. I understand that Ohtani had the visit and he didn't end up signing there, and we don't know about a lot of the other visits he's taking, so it doesn't mean that he's going to the Blue Jays. That said, I know the Blue Jays are an aggressive team. I know they like Tucker very much. James Click, former GM of the Astros, was his boss in Houston. George Springer, his former teammate, was their best player during the regular season. Yes, during the regular season, he was actually better than Vlad Guerrero Jr. Guerrero Jr. really showed what he can do in the postseason, though. But in any case, George Springer, terrific individual, and they will, I believe, listen to him, and they are a team that spends. So, I think they're a big threat, a bigger threat than perhaps they were for Ohtani, who I think the Dodgers were the favorite all along, and he ultimately went to the Dodgers. Here, I don't think we have a favorite. Certainly not the Cubs, right? Is he going back to the Cubs? I mean, they're not going to pay that 300 plus million or 400 million, whatever it's going to be. That's not them. And particularly now with Tucker, who's really not getting a clamoring from the fans. That was the only thing that was going to really spur that ownership group in the Cubs to really do it. So at the moment, the Blue Jays look like the game in town. I'm sure there are others, though, because we're talking about the number one free agent. All right, interest in Bichette. We're going to do some more Jays talk here. Yeah, I mean, to me, that's the team for him as well. Can they do both? Well, they tried for Ohtani, right? They tried for Soto. They offered $600 million plus for Soto. I know deferred. It's still Bichette and Tucker. I don't know that they're going to add up to 600 million between them. I kind of doubt it. I don't know. We'll see. Possible. If Tucker does get over 400 and Bichette gets close to 200, there's the 600 million that was going to go to Soto. And as I said, they were willing to do Soto and Vlad Guerrero Jr. Well, now they've got Vlad Guerrero Jr. And when they made that deal, that looked like an overpay. Doesn't look like that now. I mean, Vlad Guerrero Jr. was amazing in the postseason. Will Senga get traded? I think it's probably better than 50-50 that he does get traded. I think that's a possibility. Peralta to San Francisco to play with Adames. Well, you know what? That one isn't really up to Peralta. He's a trade candidate. So, would he like to play with Adames? I bet he would, but I think that's up to the Brewers, whether they're actually going to trade Adames. And big names on the block is going to be my big category today. We're going to really get into the big names on the block because we got a lot of big names to talk about, 5 in particular. Imai, Bellinger, offseason realistic for Yang. I mean, those are the 2 names, and we've been hearing them forever. Imai and Bellinger. And Imai right now conducting Zoom meetings with teams. I think he's had one with the Yankees probably, and probably one with Philly. Those are the 2 teams I've heard really connected strongly to Imai at this point. I'm sure there are others. He had a 1.92 ERA last year, a 2.2 ERA over the last 4 years. Right-handed pitcher, only 27 years old. Great slider. Is he Yamamoto? Probably not. Who is, right? I mean, Yamamoto maybe. He might be the best pitcher on the planet. I think we think it's Skubal and Skeens. Yamamoto, I would put 3rd at this point right now. I mean, I don't want to disrespect Zach Wheeler. If he's healthy and comes back, he's in that mix as well. Cubs get Imai or King. I think King is somebody they've looked at. I think that's somebody that they might be interested in. King, I've seen connected with the Red Sox. I know Detroit checked in. I think he's probably a little rich for them, especially with that draft choice. You hear the Mets to some degree with King. I think the Mets are more of a trade team than a buy a free agent team. They don't like to give up draft choices. I know they don't like to trade top prospects either, but it feels to me that the MO of David Stearns all along had been, let's not go crazy and give $200 million to a starting pitcher because it's kind of a risky proposition. And I get it to a degree, certainly. And Burns got hurt, right? Fried was really good. Burns got hurt. And obviously Snell was very useful in the playoffs, did great through the American National League playoffs, but was he worth that money? Well, they did win the World Series, so I guess he was. But and that's at least for the first year. But it does feel to me like the Mets may go that route in terms of trading for starting pitching. Cardinals plan, they seem to be on the rebuild. I don't think there's any question about that at this point. Let's see here. Alonso Mets update. I mean, I think that's, it took a long time last time. It might take a while this time, but it feels better now than it did last year. It really does. It feels like the Mets really want him back. The owner certainly wants him back. He saved him last time. I do feel like Stearns does want him back. Fromber update. I mean, look, everybody out there is shooting for that Cease deal, right? They want to somehow get close to that deal. That kind of set the trend until somebody else can get that money who's at that top of that market. That's probably Imai and Fromber. They probably will not sign. Good Cubs trade Shaw for starting pitching. Ryan Gore, then spin Bregman. Okay, I think they are looking at Bregman. I do think the Cubs are looking at Bregman. Cubs, Detroit, and Boston, I think, are all looking at Bregman. It's same scenario as last time. So he played it well, turned down the 2 for 80. He's going to be able to get a longer deal this year at big bucks. And, I mean, you would think Boston is the favorite, right? I mean, that was a good fit. Yankees plans at first base and catcher. A catcher, they'll stick in with Wells generally. First base, they're going to hope Rice can be the main guy. Would they add somebody potentially? We know they checked in on Goldschmidt. I don't know. Maybe would he want to come as part of a platoon? I kind of doubt that. All right, we answered the King market. Joe Ryan to the Mets. I think the Mets are looking at those starting pitchers, including Joe Ryan. They looked at him at the deadline. Boston was linked to him more, but the Mets certainly are a team that does fit for Joe Ryan. I do know they like Jonah Tong. There is Teoscar being shopped. I think they're gauging the interest. He wasn't on my list. That's going to be in the New York Post. It's online now. 30 guys who are on the block and could be traded. But we could add him. Ken Rosenthal, I think, reported that they are listening on Teo. Did not have the year that he had the last year. They do need to improve in the outfield. We know they've looked at Bellinger. They've talked about Tucker, but that looks like a long shot. All right, interest in Bichette. It's been pretty quiet to this point. I think it's pretty slow developing. Feels like the Blue Jays were concentrating on pitching, which I get. And now they're looking at Tucker as well. Toronto's the team that makes the most sense. So I think ultimately, until we hear of any other teams, I got to think Toronto's got a pretty decent chance. Dodgers in on Edwin Diaz. I don't think so at the moment. It doesn't feel like it. I think Suarez more likely for the Dodgers. They did try for Devin Williams. Didn't end up with him, as we know. The Mets, I think they overpaid on that one. Would the Giants trade Eldridge? I wouldn't rule it out. I don't know. I mean, he seemed like untouchable for a little while. Bellinger to LA. I don't know which LA that is, but both LA teams have checked in. Bellinger's a big market guy, apparently. Only big market teams for Bellinger, right? We've got the Mets, the Yankees, the Dodgers, Angels. Two biggest markets, 4 teams from those big markets interested in Bellinger, and he's played for the 3 biggest markets in baseball. So, all right. Duran for Reagans. Everybody wants to trade Duran. It does feel like Duran is a guy who has a decent chance to be traded. I do kind of feel that. All right. Mariners in on Kyle Tucker or Bo Bichette. I think Tucker's too rich for them. They might look at Bichette depending how that market shakes out. Schwarber market. Schwarber's doing great. He's going to have a great deal. We can see that now. There are several teams. Phillies, Reds, hometown Reds. Give Ken Rosenthal credit for first reporting that. Pirates. Orioles, Red Sox, a lot of teams in on Schwarber. That quite good question. I think I was either the Globe or some Boston entity was suggested who's the better fit for the Red Sox. Is it Schwarber or is it Alonso? I think Alonso being a right-handed hitter, it seems more natural that they would go that way. But, obviously Schwarber, they loved him when they had him briefly. And that's, teams love Schwarber. I mean, he's great in the clubhouse, 56 home runs, 23 versus lefties. So he's going to do quite well. Who plays first for the Mets if Pete is DH, not Vientos? No, I mean, this is why they got to sign Pete, right? Pete should be the first baseman for the most part, doing some DHing. If they don't, is it Rhys Hoskins? I mean, that first base list is not that great after Pete. So, they got to to me, should bring back Pete. They should bring back Diaz. I don't want to just make it about Pete. They need to bring back Diaz too. All right, big names on the block. All right, let's go over some of the big names on the block. Jorge Polanco, I know the Mariners are interested. I know the Red Sox are interested. Martian for Duran. That would be an unusual one. To me, Boston, if they're trading an outfielder, they're going to get some other position. Aren't they over on the outfielders? I don't know. Will the Cubs go over the tax? I don't know. I mean, Cubs can afford to do what they can do. I mean, I just don't get them. So anyway, I'll just leave it at that. I think we talk about this every day, every time I'm on, that the Cubs should spend more money. Big names on the block, and there are plenty of them. The first one, I don't know about on the block, but Schoolbull's name obviously will be out there in terms of teams showing interest at least. And I don't think Detroit's going to say to a team, I want this and that and the other thing. I think what's going to happen is they're going to say, we'll listen, tell us what you're going to give us. And they're going to probably end up saying no, no, and no. And can you blame them? Schoolbull is absolutely fantastic. Is it possible someone will come and say, I'll give you, our top 3 prospects plus, Maybe he's got a 1 year rental. It's tough situation. I mean, Detroit, they made the playoffs the last 2 years, but they were a 500 team over those 2 years when Skubal didn't start. With Skubal, they were more than two-thirds victories. So very difficult for them to trade him. I would just hold on to him. I mean, if they're not in the race, which I find highly unlikely in that division or any other division, then you could consider trading him. Otherwise, you're going to have to just ride it out, try to win, and take the draft choices because you're not going to trade him and improve this year's team. That's not happening. All right, Peralta, similar situation. Milwaukee might be a little more open to it. Smaller market team. Peralta hasn't won two Cy Young. He's really good, top five Cy Young pitcher. Really good with a low salary of $8 million. I'm sure there's a ton of interest in him. They may listen a little bit more than Detroit, and I would say the chances of him being traded are a little bit more. Again, I wrote about the top 30 trade candidates on the New York Post. You can get that NYPost.com and see all these guys are included in that. Ketel Marte, I mean, he's been out there before. It's kind of like Brandon Lau. They have not pulled the trigger, and I'm thinking it's not that likely that they're going to pull the trigger. That's a tough one. The guy's at a 150 OPS plus over the last 2 years. You know who else has had the 150 OPS plus over the last 2 years? Judge, Soto, and Ohtani. I mean, that's a pretty good player you're talking about. Mackenzie Gore. There's a guy I think has a good chance to be traded, and Nats are not a contender. I think it would be wise to trade him. The one issue would be who's going to fill up the innings, who's going to throw the innings. To me, sign a bunch of guys who can pitch innings like Eric Fetty or whatever, whoever that may be. But to have Gore pitching the next 2 years when you're probably not going to win, you're not going to be able to re-sign him, makes no sense. So to me, Gore should be traded, and he's got good value right now. Byron Buxton, that's up to him. He's got the Twins may not want to trade him anyway, but I mean, ultimately it'll be up to him because he's got the full no trade. And he said at the not at the deadline, at the All-Star game that he didn't want to go anywhere. Now, I mean, obviously the Twins rebuild looks pretty strong. They traded 11 guys. We still haven't heard that he's more willing or very willing or anything like that. The speculation is that he might approve his hometown team, the Atlanta Braves. Okay, I don't know that they need a center fielder. The Mets are a team that does. There are plenty of teams that could use him. Phillies could use him. Would he approve the Mets or the Phillies off of Minnesota after saying, I don't want to leave Minnesota? I mean, not going to rule it out, but he doesn't seem anxious to leave. He likes Minnesota, and you can't blame him. Some people, they love the Midwest, right? My wife is back here nodding her head. She's from Wisconsin, so she likes that. All right, Alcantara and Cabrera. I mean, they're out there, but those are another two guys I don't really think is that likely that they're going to be traded. Alcantara needs to show his Cy Young form, really, to get the true value for him. Mitch Keller, to me, that could be a trade because Pittsburgh needs offense, and there's no question about that. And Keller is a good pitcher. They could get something pretty decent for him. Jaron Duran, his name's been out there a lot. It's another Brandon Lau, Yandy Diaz situation where the Ketel Marte, the name's out there. If they do trade one of the outfielders, I think Duran more likely than Wilyer Abreu. Just my guess. Don't know for sure. Bubich from the Royals, I think that's a possibility. Yeah, I do think so. They're looking for outfield help. They're looking for a hitter. To me, that could make sense. All those guys are guys that would bring in a nice haul. Donovan, I'll throw Brendan Donovan in there. Teams love him. Very versatile guy. I'm not sure why the Cardinals need to trade him now, but he was out there at the deadline. He's out there again. You hear Stephen Kwan's name? I don't see that one. To me, that makes no sense. They might as well go for it. They make the playoffs all the time. All right, somebody mentioned Kodai Senga. I'm going to mention the other guys now that really are not having great or did not have great years lately and probably don't have the value of their contract. In other words, they're, I want to say overpaid, but they're paid handsomely. And are they worth the contracts? I mean, it's debatable in some of these cases. Senga, I think, is in that category. Had a very rough year last year. He started great. He was leading an ERA when he went out with the injury. When he came back, he couldn't pitch at all. I mean, he was terrible. He was sent down. They never used him again. I know he's out there saying, at least Will Salmon from The Athletic reported that he doesn't want to go. It's not up to him, and it does feel like the Mets do want to trade him. Are they selling low? They'd be selling low. And at this point, I think they might have to pay that contract down a bit, which It didn't seem like an overpay at the time, particularly after that first year when he was fantastic. And then the next year he was basically hurt, and then last year he started out great and ended up not great. So he's basically run the gamut from everything. McNeil's another guy. He's lost his position. He needs to be traded. There's no two ways about that at this point. 17.75 million to go for 1 year. Now he is versatile. Teams would be interested. I've heard Pittsburgh and Seattle are interested. Probably other teams, but they'd have to pay that down too. Barrios, I've seen his name out there. It's another one where I think they'd have to pay a little bit of it down. Severino, who I love personally, went on our post podcast. Great guy, but to me, at this point, with 40 plus million to go with 2 years, obviously not performing in Oakland, not really Oakland anymore, Sacramento or West Sacramento. I got to get that right at some point. West Sacramento, 6 ERA at home, 3 on the road, was great on the road. They could sell it as, he's going to be great as long as he got West Sacramento. I got it right that time. So potentially he could get traded. They'd have to pay down, I don't know, the half of it. They'd have to pay down significant or take a bad contract with. I mean, could they trade Severino for McNeil? I mean, maybe. That might make some sense. All right, let's go on to the next category. Dodgers staying quiet. I don't want to have to say the Dodgers are staying quiet. They're obviously a great team. They need to do less than anybody else. Obviously, they need to look at that bullpen. They tried for Devin Williams. They need to look at the outfield. They've checked in on Bellinger. I'm sure they've checked in on Tucker as well. I don't think they say they're going to do nothing, but there are certain years that they kind of target. They target the Otani year. They targeted the Betts year. They targeted Freeman. They pick and choose. They find these all-time greats and get them on relatively good deals. I mean, that is a smart way to go. I know they have a lot of money. It's not a limitless supply. It's become greater since they signed up Otani, and they make a lot of money off of Otani through sponsorship and marketing, so they can afford to do what they want to do. But I mean, is there a true number one perfect pitcher out there? Only on the trade market, right? If Scooble's out there, that's the guy. I mean, they obviously Imai and Fromber and Suarez are very, very good pitchers. Can they break into the rotation of the Dodgers? I'm not sure that they can. They're certainly going to look at the outfield, as I mentioned. I think they'd be interested in Tucker at the right number of years, just like they were interested in Bryce Harper at the right number of years. And I think they like Bellinger. They liked him when they had him. He's obviously resuscitated his career after those 2 rough injury years. And, so I think outfield, uh, bullpen, they look at Suarez. How about bringing back Kenley Jansen? Look, I don't think they have a set closer at this point. They spent $72 million on Tanner Scott. Now, Kenley Jansen's want to go to someplace he's going to close. Is he definitely the closer if they sign him? No, he's not definitely the closer. So I don't think it's that likely. But I mean, he was a great Dodger, and we know that he can close, and he was pretty good last year. I think that would be a safe play for the Dodgers. But maybe at this point in the career of Kenley Jansen, they're not going to go in that route, and they're just going to hope that Tanner Scott improves, and I think they'll augment that bullpen. So quiet, yeah, I think they'll be much more quiet than they've been in the past. But they're never completely quiet. All right. Will Buxton waived no trade for the Dodgers? I mean, the rumor is he would do it for the Braves. He obviously wants to be comfortable. He liked Minnesota. It hasn't really come out or suggested or speculated on any other teams. I mean, to me, it's hard to imagine there are guys turning down the Dodgers. Certainly an outstanding chance to win a ring. So I think there would probably be a decent chance that he might accept a trade to the Dodgers. Why wouldn't you? Would you? I would. Why not? Wouldn't want to join the Dodgers? Will Luis Castillo be traded by the Mariners? I mean, there's another guy who's been on the block every year. So, I kind of think not, probably not. I think more likely they just sign the extra hitter that they're probably looking for, whether that be Polanco or Suarez or somebody like that. Have the Mariners checked in on Ketel Marte or Skubal? I bet they have. I bet everybody's checked in on Skubal. Marte's a guy that they had previously. Obviously, he's become a star in Arizona. I think he would fit there, certainly, as they're looking for another hitter on the infield. If they can figure out a deal for Marte, and obviously they're going to have to give a lot more than they got back for him, Seattle is a spot where he would fit. When will the free agent market heat up? Well, we're heading to the winter meetings. I'm here in Miami. You can probably see that it's kind of Miami. Heading 4 hours north to Orlando on this weekend, and I think it will really start heating up on the deadline. At the meetings. Excuse me. I got a text there. All right. Polanco makes sense for the Cubs. Not really to me. They're looking at Bregman. I know for the infield, but then what do you do with Shaw? Are they thinking about trading Shaw? That is a possibility. Would you do that for Polanco? Maybe. Not going to rule it out, but I know they looked at Bregman as a possibility. I think Shaw, they liked the defense was better than they thought. The offense was not as good as they expected it to be. So interesting to see what they're going to do with Shaw. Uh, would they move him to second and trade Horner? He's the lifeblood of the team. Somebody on the team told me that, and I'm going to go with that. So I don't think so. Would the Brewers trade Contreras? I don't see that happening. I don't see that as a likelihood. Buxton trade for Ben Brown and mid prospect. I don't think you can get Buxton for Ben Brown and mid prospect. Give it a try, but I don't see that happening. Byron Buxton had a fantastic year. Mets and Bellinger, they're interested. They probably want to exhaust all these right-handed trade candidates rather than make a huge offer. And it's going to take a huge offer for Bellinger, right? He's got all these big market teams interested. He had a great year. He had a 5 WAR season, actually more WAR than Kyle Tucker, if you're into that kind of thing. What should the Phillies do? Well, they're trying for Real Muto and Schwarber. Certainly, I can't argue with that. That seems like a good idea. And they're trying for Imai. So they're trying for some big stuff. Eventually, they're probably going to trade Castellanos. Didn't mention him in the trade market. I do think you can trade him. You're going to have to pay back down at least 80 to 90% of it. I do believe at this point, the way things are going there. Rangers in on Gallen, King, or Suarez. Possibly. I could see that their issue is offense more than pitching, but I wouldn't rule it out. It is a big market team, although they've expressed some concern about the payroll, so that might be a tough one for them. Joe Ryan of the Cubs, certainly the Cubs are going to look at Gallen, they're going to look at King, they're going to look at the trade candidates, and there are plenty, as we mentioned. Gore, Ryan, all would fit. What is the 2026 Red Sox infield? Well, they're trying for Bregman, and they're trying for either Alonso or Akamoto, who could play first base. It does feel like Casas will be traded, so they're going to have some big shakeup there. I miss Nimmo. Yeah, we all do. Nimmo is fantastic. Akamoto news. I've heard Toronto. I've heard Pittsburgh. I've heard Boston. So that's my Akamoto news. I don't know if that's news, but I've heard some teams that he is connected to. Arenado, yeah, that's another guy that the Cardinals are looking to trade. Cardinals, they give out these no trades. Wilson Contreras has a blanket no trade. I think Michael has had a no trade. Yeah, it's a little too much. Certainly come back to bite them. All right, let me hit on teams to watch out for. I'm going to mention the Pirates and the Marlins because I think those two teams could be on the come. The Marlins already improved 19 games, so that's no scoop. But to me, the Pirates, you've got Skeens there. You've got a lot of really good young pitchers. You've got Connor Griffin. You've got good prospects. They finally have some money to spend. Those are two teams that really have not spent enough money, particularly Pittsburgh, who reportedly make a huge profit. They've got the cash out there. Are they going to actually do it? We know they've checked in on Schwarber. Is Schwarber really going to turn down the Phillies, his incumbent team, and his hometown team, the Reds, to go to the Pirates? You might as well check in, but it's not likely going to happen. More likely they're going to have to trade for offense. But if they traded for some decent average offense, whether it be Keller going or prospects going, I think the Pirates could really make some waves. I really do. But you gotta have to spend a little too. You're just not gonna do it through trades, but you need to spend a little, which they haven't done. Hassan Kim, Atlanta. I think the problem there, or the issue there, has been the years. I do think that makes sense. They need a shortstop. They got a great utility guy in Dubon, but I do think that Kim still doesn't make sense for them. Can Orioles get a number one starting pitcher? Well, number one is debatable. Who's the number one? Skubal's the number one. I'm sure they'll try. Not likely, not as I said, not that likely to be traded. Ryan could be a number one, right? If he's traded, they're certainly going to look at that. Other than that, I guess Fromber or Imai could be a number one. I don't think Imai is going to go to Baltimore. I don't see that. Could Fromber potentially, right? This Fromber has a connection with the Orioles GM. Mike Elias had been in Houston, so I could see that happening. Pete does not want to DH. No, but he understands that he's going to have to do a little more DHing, or might have to do a little more DHing. And then if he gets the multi-year deal, which we expect at this point, he had a big year, a 5-year deal, he understands he's going to have to be a DH in the latter years of that contract. Do the Braves actually have money to spend? To me, we know what they make. They have a big profit. I don't even know if it's exactly accurate, but they've admitted to a $69 million profit, so we know that much. Um, so, excuse me, I'm getting a text in there. So they have money to spend. Are they going to spend it? That's the bigger question with the Braves. I'm going to leave you on that note. I'm over my time. I appreciate it. Thanks for all the chats. Sorry I didn't get to all of them. I will be back at you tomorrow, Friday, another big day here at Bleacher Report. And then all next week at the winter meetings, we'll be doing this live stream right from the site in Orlando. We'll see you tomorrow.